So I'm going to go over some basics of taking information from snippets of sound in Arbimon. So here is a project. You start off from the project screen in Arbimon, and you then navigate to data. And depending on the project, you're going to have probably several sites that show up first. Then you have the option to look at species, soundscape composition, uploads, recordings, training sets, templates, and playlists. We're going to look at recordings. So I go to recordings, and I focus on a recording that I may be assigned for something or that I'm needing to look at for some reason or other. In this case, we're going to be looking at the elements of soundscape composition and trying to tag some important sounds that we may later use in some kind of an analysis. You can view this in the visualizer. Now, it's important to sort of look at a couple of things about the way these files are named. I'm actually going to take away these annotations real quick. So the name of this file is 2021-1229 _ 080000.p4. And so what that's indicating is this is a piece of a file that started recording at 8 o'clock in the morning of December 29th, 2021. And that's what it's telling us here. But it's part 4 of that recording. Part 1 would have been really right at from 8 o'clock to 8:01. Part 2 would have been from 8:01 to 8:02. Part 3 would have been from 8:02 to 8:03. And part 4 would have been from 8:03 to 8:04. And so that's what we're looking at, part 4. And so when you're entering data, it's important to note the file name and the actual time of the recording. So I'm going to listen through the recording. And one thing I'm hearing a lot of are these long, dark lines. And I know based on the site that I deployed this recorder at, that these dark marks that span a large frequency band are raindrops, dripping drops. There was snow and ice events during this time period, and then there was melting. So that's what this sound is. There's also some bird sounds in here. But there's not a lot else. There's not other types of animal sounds, or actually you're not hearing car sounds or interphone. So listening through that, we got that. And so then you go to soundscape composition. One of the things you can do is to check off what kinds of sounds you're hearing. In geophoning, you have wind, rain, and moving water. And we're really not hearing any of those things. The drops are not from rain, and they're not moving water in the sense of a stream or a creek or a river. The only biophony is birds, and heard no anthrophony. Now I want to tag some sounds. So there may be some analysis I do later, but for now, the great thing in Arbimon is you can work with a group of people to identify sounds you may or may not know and to share that information. So we're going to listen through again. There's some little bird sounds. Okay, I'm going to pause because there's kind of a distinctive sound right about here. So we're going to listen through and look for this line that's right close to 2 kilohertz. Now that's a sound that's pretty far away, but I suspect that that is a varied thrush. And so I'm going to add a tag to it. And so the way I do that is I click in this window or this bar here below recording tags, and then that provides me with a selection tool. And I'm actually going to try and select as close to the boundaries of that sound as I can. And then I add a tag. And when you're working on a collaborative project, it makes sense to have an indicator of the observer or the person that's doing the annotation. And so in this case, let's do first and last initial. for Allison Stiring, it'll be A, capital S, and then an underscore, and then some note about the sound. And I'm going to type in varied brush. And in this case, it was kind of far. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, but I'm going to put a question mark. And you have to be careful in Arbimon here. You actually have to select what it has typed, or you get a part of a word. Okay. And so now we have varied thrush tagged here. We can listen through some more of this. Pause here. Go to this. There's that sound again. There's something coming up. Okay. I suspect that this is a dark-eyed junco. Again, I would want to hear more of this sound, just feel very confident about it, but I can tag it. And again, with my own identifier, AS, and then dark junco. Okay. And a little bit more. Let's listen to a little bit more. That's more of the junco. A little bit this. Okay. This right here is an Anna's hummingbird, and I'm certain about that. And so I'm going to actually span, I think I'm going to select the lower harmonics of this sound for these purposes, but we could expand it later if we need to. Oops, let's start again. And my identifier, and this hummingbird. Now, actually, after I listened to some more of the sound, this sound right here, oops. I'm sure that first tag actually is dark-eyed junco. So I can actually go back to that tag. And I think I can edit it. Let's see. May have to actually eliminate it, and then I'm going to re-tag it. So that's just a best practice. Once you become certain of something, you can leave out the question mark, because that tells another person on the project that they don't need to listen to it again. You can actually search for these sounds by things like question marks and by identifier. Okay, and so you would do that. So I've annotated the sound. Say I want to go in and find, we've done a bunch of annotations, and I want to find sounds that the person with initials AS has annotated. I can do that by typing a piece of the tag. I think that this will work. Oh, it will show me all of the ones that are by AS. So I can actually select the other tags that have that identifier in it and apply the filters. And it should give me the recordings that have those things. Let me try this again. So let's try one of these. Oops, I have to, can't quite see it because of my zoom bar here. Filters. Apply filters. It's not showing up, so we'll have to figure out what's going on there. Okay, so what has to happen after you do a tag is you have to refresh Arbimon, so to make sure that those new tags have saved. And so now if I go into the filters and type my initial, or I actually get a drop down of tags, I can pick one with my initial, apply those filters, and I see this recording. And so I can look at the recording that has a certain tag in it and then look at it again. I may be looking for ones with question marks, and I can go through and help identify them. And that's how collaboration can happen on these sorts of projects.